The photographs, artifacts, and evidence we have amassed irrefutably point towards a lost and unknown civilization that predates all others, not by a mere few hundred or a few thousand years, but by many millennia. These groundbreaking discoveries are so profound that they will undoubtedly challenge the prevailing views of historians, archaeologists, and the general public alike. A radical paradigm shift is required in our understanding of human history.
Imagine coming across traces of an ancient civilization so old that it predates not only all known civilizations, but even the appearance of humans on our planet. Today, we will explore this incredible story, a narrative that challenges everything we thought we knew about ancient civilizations, shrouded in the mists of time, but corroborated by numerous ancient texts. Before we start our journey, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel because your support is crucial for us and our work. Tracing human history according to official narratives, it is believed that Homo sapiens first appeared on our planet between 300,000 and 200,000 years ago in Africa. The first organized societies, according to this historical view, would have emerged around 6,500 years ago in Mesopotamia with the Sumerian civilization. Given this information, a question naturally arises. If in just 6,000 years humanity developed social and technological skills so advanced as to move from a primitive society to space exploration, what did humans do during the previous 200,000 years? Is it really plausible that it took all these years to evolve from living in caves to a more advanced civilization? Our channel followers know that there are evidences of civilizations older than those commonly recognized. We have discussed, for example, Göbekli Tepe, Gunung Padang, and the dating doubts surrounding the Egyptian pyramids. But what we will talk about today takes us much further back in time, to an era when human presence was not yet fully confirmed. For centuries, in the valleys and hills of South Africa, local legends have passed down tales of an ancient place whose memory gradually faded over time. These stories, handed down from generation to generation, painted the picture of a forgotten ancient civilization that had vanished without a trace. Johann Heine, an expert pilot specialized in firefighting operations, spent many years of his life flying over the Mpumalanga region, located about 300 kilometers from Johannesburg, on the border with Mozambique. From his privileged view from above, Heine spotted something extraordinary: huge and mysterious circular stone ruins. This intriguing discovery prompted him to document these strange structures through a series of photographs. The scholars to whom Johann Heine showed the photographs initially believed that these were merely remains of an ancient site called a kraal, a type of enclosure historically used by the Bantu population to protect livestock. According to this theory, the enclosures were abandoned during migrations between the 14th and 18th centuries, and their use was forgotten by history. However, this all changed when Heine, along with independent researcher Michael Tellinger, began to systematically examine the site, and what they would soon discover would be revolutionary. Observing the site from above, Tellinger and Heine noticed the immense expanse of these structures, which seen from the ground level were almost unrecognizable due to the vegetation and sand covering them, but from above appeared in all their majesty. While many of these structures were severely eroded by time, some had miraculously survived well enough to reveal their imposing dimensions. Some original walls still stood, reaching almost 2 meters in height and over 1 meter in width. The observation from this perspective clearly suggested that it was a work carefully planned and created by an advanced society. According to the two researchers, the site also seems to be part of a vast and ancient metropolis. The analysis of aerial photographs would suggest that the city would have extended over an impressive area of 5,000 square kilometers. But this area would only be a portion of an even more extensive community, which would cover a staggering 35,000 square kilometers. In fact, rather than a single site, we should speak of multiple sites. To give you a good understanding of the dimensions of these places, you can find the GPS coordinates in the description of this video to enter on Google Earth. As you can see, within this vast settlement, you can identify particular networks that resemble modern road connections, some of which would extend for dozens of kilometers and appear to link what seems almost like a city to the surrounding fields. The organization and structure of these settlements show surprising similarities to those of the ancient Inca civilizations in Peru. Additionally, there is another interesting fact. According to some analyses conducted by Tillinger, powerful magnetic anomalies would be recorded within these circles.
Energy measurements have established that the circles still generate enormous amounts of energy, which we have measured. Electromagnetic waves, sound waves, and heat signatures. We have measured sound levels as high as 103 decibels emanating from the walls of some circles, a heat signature of over 80 degrees and 1800 megahertz. These are places that are still very active and energetic. Furthermore, within the circle, GPS signals are lost. If you step inside, the signal disappears. If you step back, the GPS works again, and all this is due to the strong electromagnetic field. Who created this system of stones? It doesn't matter who those people were. They undoubtedly had a high degree of knowledge in acoustics and astronomy.
Another significant aspect to consider is that South Africa, particularly the area near this incredible discovery, is rich in ancient gold mines that are still being exploited today. Indeed, South Africa is among the countries with the largest gold reserves underground. This raises the question of whether there is a correlation between this ancient site and the extraction of gold from the mines. However, it is also unclear what these ancient inhabitants could have done with a metal like gold. Mining gold requires significant physical and organizational effort and could not have been used for practical purposes such as food or tools. So, why would a still primitive society need to extract gold in large quantities? What did they use it for? Following the extraordinary discovery, the next challenge was dating these impressive structures. Using carbon-14 for dating was not feasible, as the presence of wood or similar materials could have been influenced by events subsequent to the construction of the site. As we know, dating stone itself is not possible, but there is a particular method, the analysis of the oxide patina that forms on stones over time. Each stone structure, depending on its composition, accumulates deposits over the years that react with the air and moisture, creating a colored patina on the surface. If this patina is not removed or damaged, the accumulated color and thickness can provide indications about the age of the stone on which it is formed. The characteristics and growth rates of the patina also depend on the composition of the stones themselves. And in this case, being silica rocks, the analyses have indicated an age of just over 200,000 years. This initial clue suggests that these constructions may have been erected in a very distant time, and that over many millennia, they were then used by various cultures that succeeded one another in that region, including the Baconi, to whom they are attributed, and who, according to this first estimate, would have only used and not built them. Adding strength to this extraordinary dating is another discovery made by chance in 2003 by Johann Heine. During one of his explorations, Heine identified a series of large stones protruding from the ground. Upon closer inspection, he noticed that they were curiously aligned according to the Earth's cardinal points. After weeks of measurements, Heine concluded that these stones marked solstices and equinoxes, and thus represented a sort of ancient calendar.
The calendar was designed to align with the four cardinal points, north, south, east, and west, but it also features a stone carved in the shape of a falcon. I believe this could be related to the Egyptian deity Horus. This sculpture marks the sunrise during the spring equinox in the southern hemisphere. It appears that this is the oldest stone sculpture of Horus ever found to date. It is known that Horus always represents the sunrise. Thus, this could mean that we are looking at the site of the original rising of Horus.
In ancient Egypt, as we know, there was a correlation between the gods and the stars, based on the belief that Egyptian gods were connected to specific constellations, and that these influenced life on Earth. For example, the constellation of Orion, known in ancient Egypt as Sa, was often associated with Osiris, the god of the underworld and regeneration. Osiris, the father of Horus, had a strong connection with death and rebirth, and his association with Orion can be interpreted as a celestial representation of these beliefs. Thus, Orion was seen as a place where Osiris reigned in the afterlife. Based on these assumptions, the initial attempts to date this ancient calendar were based on the observation of Orion's dawn, a constellation famous for its 3 bright stars that form the belt of the legendary hunter. To the researchers' surprise, the stones appeared to align with the constellation of Orion. But there was a problem. They were offset from the ideal line of the horizon, as if they had been moved to another position. This is actually normal. We know that the Earth oscillates on its axis over time, causing changes in the angle at which stars and constellations appear in the night sky. This rotation is known as precession and completes a cycle every 26,000 years. Therefore, if it were possible to determine when the 3 stars of Orion's belt were horizontally aligned with the horizon, it becomes possible to estimate the exact moment when the 3 stones of the calendar were erected in line with these visible stars. An initial rough calculation suggested an age of at least 25,000 years. But as we will see, more precise measurements have indicated a much older age. To estimate the exact age when the 3 stars were perfectly aligned with the megaliths, one had to consider the natural erosion that these had undergone over the years, and the fact that parts of these rocks were broken, and their fragments lay on the ground. The most recent and accurate calculation that takes into account all these variables was conducted in June 2009, and it indicated an age of at least 160,000 years, based both on the apparent rising of Orion on the horizon and on the erosion of the dolerite stones found at the site. We are thus faced with a staggering revelation. Who could build a structure of this complexity 160,000 years ago? As we mentioned at the beginning of the video, it is thought that Homo sapiens appeared on Earth 200,000 years ago. So, how could a civilization so advanced almost concurrently exist? Clearly, it's impossible. But if we go back in time and trace the history of human origins, we find a fascinating coincidence that seems to link this place to the appearance of the first humans. If we follow the path of humanity, we can go back in time to a point where modern humans, Homo sapiens, evolved from more primitive ancestors known as hominids. Although scientists have not yet fully understood how and why this new human form suddenly emerged, we can still trace our genes back to a single woman called Mitochondrial Eve, the mother of our species. Mitochondrial Eve is the name given by scholars to what is considered the most recent matrilineal common ancestor for all living humans. As we know, we all inherit our mitochondrial DNA, which is passed on only from mother to children. Scientists estimate that Mitochondrial Eve might have lived between 150,000 and 250,000 years ago, probably in East Africa, in the region of Tanzania and the surrounding areas to the south and west. It seems then that we are all direct descendants of this human woman, who might have lived in the same region as the mysterious and fascinating structures we are talking about. Well, before we go any further, let's summarize the situation. We've mentioned that Heine and Tellinger have identified the remains of what seems to be an extremely ancient archaeological site. The dating techniques they have used seem to place this site in a very ancient era, and not only does this coincide temporally with the birth of our species, but the locations also seem to be the same. All of this is obviously intriguing and fascinating, but must be studied and investigated with extreme caution, because we are talking about a discovery that, if confirmed even partially after years of investigations, would appear not only as the greatest archaeological discovery ever made, but would overturn everything we know about our origins. But now let's delve into the darker and more mysterious part of this story. However, those who are in search of certainties and scientific evidence can stop here, because they will not find satisfactory answers to their questions. But those who are eager to immerse themselves in a journey to a very distant and mysterious era can join us in the second part of this video and wonder, with an open mind and free from prejudice, if everything that Tillinger and Heine have discovered is correct, who could have built these structures in such a remote era? As we mentioned before, in this particular region of South Africa, we know there are ancient gold mines, and these may have had a mysterious connection to this discovery. Well, if we look into Sumerian mythology, we find that the gold mines played a fundamental role in the whole story. The oldest civilization commonly accepted is that of the Sumerians, which developed in Mesopotamia about 6,000 years ago, in the region known today as Iraq. From the Sumerians, we have inherited many stories, myths, and legends, many of which were later adapted and reworked by the cultures that succeeded them over the centuries. In the Enuma Elish, which is one of the most famous Sumerian epic tales, the origin of the world and the Sumerian deities are narrated. According to Sumerian mythology, the gods were divine beings that came from the sky or from a place called Nibiru. These were superior beings with divine powers and advanced abilities. According to Sumerian mythology, in ancient times on Earth, there were two categories of deities: the workers, who were tasked with building infrastructure and working in the gold mines, gold that was destined for activities outside our planet, and the ruling class, the deities who commanded over all the lesser gods. After thousands of years of this labor, the worker gods rebelled against the ruling deities because they found the work in the mines too hard. Unable to quell the revolt, the deities decided to solve the problem by creating a hybrid to work in their place, mankind.
Belitili, the goddess of the womb, is present. Let the goddess of the womb create her offspring, and let man bear the burden of the gods.
To create humanity, the gods would have killed Geshtu, a god who possessed intelligence, and from his blood mixed with clay, humanity was born. What is narrated in these ancient texts, viewed with today's knowledge, appears to be a sort of in vitro fertilization from which an evolved being was born, capable of performing the functions of the worker gods. Other texts also explain that the deities came to Earth to extract gold, and once this operation was completed, it was decided that humanity, which in the meantime had grown enormously, and with its noise annoyed the deities, should die. A powerful flood, causing an inundation that would destroy our planet, was supposed to cause the death of humans. However, according to the story, one of the gods felt sympathy for a human named Ziusudu, and warned him that to survive, he would need to build a boat. When the flood arrived, it inundated the earth and destroyed much of humanity. But Ziusudu survived, along with his family and all the animals that had found a place on the boat. The presence in South Africa of these ancient structures, ancient mines, and the coincidence of the times and places of the birth of mankind has led several researchers to hypothesize that what is written in the Sumerian texts is not just myth or legend, but has concrete correlations. Clearly, there is no evidence that all of this really happened, but we cannot deny that this story is particularly fascinating and opens up suggestive hypotheses, especially considering that there are countless testimonies handed down over time from various places on the planet that all tell the same story. The discovery of these incredible structures, regardless of what one may think, deserves to be investigated and explored further. And who knows, perhaps one day we might discover that not everything reported in Sumerian mythology is the fruit of imagination, but that something extraordinary really did happen. Who were these deities mentioned by the ancient Sumerians? Were they a people from the stars, or is it something else? We will talk about this in upcoming videos, but for now, if this story has fascinated you and you have come this far, we are really curious to hear your opinion. Write in the comments what you think, and if you like the video and want to support our work, subscribe to the channel. See you in the next story.